Being flown to South Carolina from Georgetown, and the 3 bodies are being put on a plane in South Carolina to be come into San Francisco tonight or tomorrow morning. And I have an estimated arrival time of, I'm not sure what the latest figures are, but it was somewhere between 2 and 5 this morning.
An Air Force aircraft?
I believe an Air Force aircraft, and that the services will be held at All Souls Catholic Church in South San Francisco on Wednesday. And I'm not sure of the time because we have to check on the length of, no, I'm not sure of that because we have to check on the length of time it takes for the congressional aircraft carrying the congressional delegation and family from Washington to here. And we'll have to set that for about the services for about an hour after the arrival of that plane from Washington on Wednesday morning.
Do you know who's going to be on that plane?
The members of the congressional delegation who are coming, members of the family, and I'm not sure who all is coming, who that will include. I know who the family will be. There'll be staff members from Leo's Washington office, and I've not had word yet as to how many members of Congress will be on that flight. There will be some coming here, some already in California, and some from, they've invited primarily the California delegation, members of the congressional committees on which Leo served, and there may be a few others outside of that who will volunteer for it, but I don't have the figures at this time. And his immediate family, members will include his mother, Autumn Ryan, 3 sisters, Deirdre, Sheila, and Shannon, his son Christopher and Chris's wife, his daughter Erin, and plus the staff members from his Washington office and some subcommittee members, subcommittee staff, Dave Schenke and Dan Cook. That's what I have as far as who's going to be on the plane.
Who's representing the president? Do you know that?
I have not been told who's going to represent the president at the funeral.
Joe, you said you were talking over the weekend about warnings. You'd warned the congressman, that others had warned them. Had there been threats that manifested these warnings?
No, the warnings that we talked about with Jackie and myself were primarily based upon the interviews and the information received from the refugees from the People's Temple and from concerned relatives who turned out to be all too accurate in their information as to the nature of the settlement and in the nature of the people there. And we were not sure how accurate the information was. So Leo didn't know, but we did discuss in depth the information received from those people, and it was based on that we discussed the possible dangers, and Leo knew of those dangers. He knew of them because of his own talks with the concerned relatives and with the refugees from People's Temple, and he took that into account when he made the trip. His statement was that when he discussed it, you can't give in to fear. You have to put fear aside, otherwise you can't do an effective job. Well, I'll take this question here first, please. Thank you.
Were you specifically warned by the State Department about the danger?
No, we were not. The State Department opinion seemed to be that everything we had over the last year, that the settlement was benign, they were nice people, and everything was fine there. That was one of the problems we had, was that we couldn't seem to convince the State Department that there really was a problem there. It's one of the reasons Leo had to go down himself, because the State Department sent people out a few times, and they got the full treatment of the nice tour and came back over in one day, just a few hours, and came back and reported things were fine. I don't blame the State Department for that. They sent people out and acted on their information, and a lot of people were fooled in this thing, and were a great number of people over the years, and it was just that they didn't have access to the information that we had, and they want to get along with the government of Guyana, and you can't look back on a situation and second guess it. They did the best they could, and so they just were reviewing their own information. They had been out there, and they were convinced that everything was fine, so we can't blame them.
Joe, do you feel now that
they were not the only warnings, if they, and I can't call them warnings, were sort of discussions about what the courts handle it. And the courts were, had been handling it, had not been handling it. They've got decisions in this country that were tried to take the Guyana courts, and the Guyana courts wouldn't act on it. They said about the number of people going down, they said Georgetown was a small place, it might not have enough room for everybody. But, and I don't want to get into a contest of saying there's anything wrong with their State Department, but if their spokesmen are saying now, if they were to say that they had warned Congressman Ryan of danger to himself personally, I would have to say that such a statement was not true.
Was there an indication of a closer than normal relationship between Ryan and between Jones and the Guyana government?
The Guyana government, from our reports, appeared to be, they had given Jones a great deal of land there to improve. There seemed to be a feeling between the two that they were very much in tune on their attitude towards life and toward government, as far as this was a socialist state in Guyana, and they seemed to have thought they shared similar goals. And the government of Guyana also had no way, apparently, to gauge the true nature of the People's Temple operation.
Joe, now that this tragic thing has taken place, do you have indications that Washington will move ahead on this thing now and really get into the bottom of it?
I have no doubt that they will. I talked to the president called, I guess it was yesterday afternoon, to talk to Leo's mother and myself, and I'm convinced that he's has the top people in the government working on it. They are doing, I'm sure, everything they can, and will continue to do so. I don't think it's really a governmental problem. I think it's more of a problem of our society than anything else at this point. Everything is done now. It's just a matter now of what do we do about this type of madness in our society.
What kind of report is Congressman Ryan going to bring back? What was he going to tell people?
He went down to investigate the allegations of been made by the concerned relatives, to see whether or not people were being held against their will, to wonder what conditions these people were living there. And so he was going to come back with a report on whether what the situation really was. But in addition to that, in addition to, perhaps he hoped to bring back the news that it was a fine settlement, that the people had nothing to fear, that the relatives were, she assured them their relatives were fine down there, that everything was what some people thought it was. But whatever it was, he was going to bring that information back. He also went determined that if there were any people there, children or otherwise, who were being held against their will, he had made a determination he was going to help bring them out.
Did he find out that the allegations he went down to investigate were true?
I can only go by circumstances on that. The facts seem to bear out that the allegations, the reporters themselves that come back who survived, have testified to the truth of the allegations.
Leo didn't die in vain then. That's...
I guess only time will tell that. Best way I can answer that is that I haven't heard, but I hope there are people who survived down there. I don't know. But beyond that, if attention has been focused on the problem of the cults and the problems beyond that create the cults in our society, if we can help in that way to make the people of this country more aware of the magnitude of this problem and the danger to us all, if we can somehow in a society alleviate the conditions that drive people to these lengths, then I think that we can say that. But oftentimes these terrible tragedies do not seem to be balanced, and I don't know what will happen in this case.
Did he express any...
Do you have any indication, if there are still American citizens remaining there who escaped the compound, what the position of the United States will be now, what the government will do?
My impression, without being able to quote any sources, my impression before I left was that since there were 1,500 or so at the beginning, and the others there was no one else there, the question is what happened to those people? And those are the people with whom we're concerned now. And I don't know if you have any later information or not, but I do know that our government will do whatever that has to do and cooperate.
Indian troops, if necessary, to bring them out?
No, I think that I'm sure that the cooperative attitude, Leo's body is being taken to Crosby and Gray Funeral Parlor in Burlingame.
What's the name of the church?
Catholic Church, I believe it's in town.
Have you
Had any report on what they're going to do with the remaining?
Have you had any threats on your life?
No, I have not.
Is anybody on the staff?
There's a person back there.
Have you had any report on what they're going to do with the people who have died in People's Temple, the occupants also?
Threats of any sort within the last 48 hours.
I can't say that.
Has your family been threatened at all, Mr. Holsinger?
I can't say that. No, Jackie did the day before.
Okay.